the Aplomado falcon. It's a grassland species, and, its big challenge is habitat. It was a species that at one time was pretty common in South Texas and New Mexico, and we know that because of egg collections. Egg collecting was a big deal at the turn of the century, and there were a lot of Aplomado falcon eggs collected in South Texas and in New Mexico. So we know historically that the bird was fairly common in those areas. Well, they're no longer common, and the most compelling rationale is that those grasslands have grown up into brush country. And the problem with brush is it also supports great horned owls. And when a great horned owl density gets above a certain point, Aplomado falcons can no longer coexist with great horned owls, because the great horned owls go way out of their way to kill Aplomado falcons. There's this sort of understanding that this is a potential competitor. So we had to find places where we released Aplomado falcons that still had remnants of the wild horse prairie, for instance. And that was right along the coast, or even islands off the coast like Matagorda Island or San Jose Island, just because they didn't have the brush encroachment farther inland former grasslands now have. For instance, the first place we released Aplomado falcons, once we had birds available, was on the King Ranch at an area where they were last observed. And boy, that was a real learning experience. The scissor-tailed flycatchers were all over the Aplomado falcons, not letting them get back to the tower for food. And then the great horned owls, picked them off in the brush. So we learned very quickly that former habitat was not necessarily contemporary habitat for Aplomado falcons. So we kind of had to rethink things. And so we went to more non-traditional habitat in more open country in the same geographical region, but we had to pick areas as far away from brush as possible. The wild horse deserts, that coastal grassland, people would have to stand up in their stirrups and wave their hat, to see the next person. It was that open, very high grass, perfect Aplomado falcon habitat, and almost endless. I mean, went all the way along the coast. But they started controlling burns, and mesquite started growing up with the cattle drives, and then that open grassland started shrinking. And where it still occurs, we have, it varies between 20 and 40 pairs of Aplomado falcons in any given year nesting in that area. And it's really hemmed in by brush. I mean, if there's more habitat, they do well. If there's less habitat, they do less well. So, it's a function of land use changes and really habitat. Like a lot of things. I mean, nothing new there with that scenario.